Good morning, my wild and beautiful friends. I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm going to make you some vegan Parmesan crusted squash. It's so good and so easy to make. Keep on watching to see how we do it. Alrighty friends, we are using delicata squash for our Parmesan crusted squash today. You can use any type of squash you like. I just happen to have these little beauties left over from my mom's garden. They're the last of the squash. I have recently discovered this variety of squash. I really like it. It's on the sweeter side and you can eat the skin, so it's really easy to prepare. So I'm just cutting them in half and I'm going to scoop out the seeds. I did save the seeds to roast like pumpkin seeds because you can do that, and turn on the oven for pizza while they were drying out and forgot. So I just burned a bunch of seeds. Happens to the best of us, right? So anywho, I'm just cutting our squash like so. I'm trying to get it as thin as I can. About 1/4 of an inch thick is about right. You just want them to be able to get a little bit crispy and obviously very tender. So I'm going to slice up all our little squashes and we will get working on our crusted section of this recipe. Okay, to make our crispy and savory crunchy topping, all you need is 1/2 cup of panko. Panko is a Japanese style breadcrumb, so if you can't find it in your normal breadcrumb or flour aisle, you can check out the Asian section, and typically it's there as well. I've also got some Follow Your Heart vegan Parmesan here. I am going to add 1/4 of a cup of this to our mixture. This stuff can get a little clumpy, so I'm kind of just eyeballing it. You can also go in with a fork and kind of smush it down in the bottle and get it out, but this will do. So I'm going to dump that in, and then we're going to, whoop, there we go. Then we're going to season everything up. I'm grinding in about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper. I'm also going to add 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. And for just a little bit of heat, I'm going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of roasted red pepper flakes. Totally optional. And then I'm just going to stir these ingredients together so we can get all the seasoning mixed throughout and kind of break down those chunks of our vegan Parmesan. Then I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of decent quality olive oil and mix it around again. It's going to turn into almost like a slightly wet sand type texture, if that makes sense. You'll be able to see it in just a second here. Once our olive oil is mixed into our dry ingredients, I'm just going to dump all of our squash into the bowl with our breadcrumb mixture. And somehow I forgot to tape that part, but here's me putting the rest of the squash in. And before I toss them, I'm actually going to drizzle another about tablespoon of that olive oil to kind of get that squash a little bit more wet so the breading will stick even better. So I'm just going to glug that on a little bit and go in with my hands and toss it all together. Don't worry if the breading doesn't stick entirely on everything. We're going to go back through and toss as we put them on our cookie sheet, and then we'll sprinkle the excess on top and it'll stick really well as it bakes. So my oven's preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. I have got some parchment paper on our cookie sheet here to keep everything from sticking, and that's going to help make it easier to get the rest of those crumbs at the end because they're so good once they get nice and browned. You can put them on top of your squash once it's all cooked. Sped this up for you. This is like a speed game of squash Tetris going on. So I just want it to be a single layer. I wanted to fit everything in there. It's okay if they're touching, but I don't want them doubled up because I want them to all get kind of crispy, almost like a bit of a squash French fry, if you will. Then I'm just going to go in with that extra breading and just sprinkle it all over the top, and we're going to pop it in the oven. And while it's baking, I'm going to make a super simple tahini dipping sauce. So I've got a bowl here. I'm just going to add about 3 tablespoons of tahini. And then to that, I'm going to squeeze in the juice of 1 lemon. Now here's the weird thing about tahini. I find it so interesting. When you add liquid to it, it gets thicker before it gets thinner like a dressing. So I'm going to mix this up and it almost turns into like a Play-Doh consistency. And you got to just kind of trust the process. You're going to just keep adding more liquid until it thins out like a dressing, and then you can make it the consistency you'd like. So hopefully that makes sense. You can see what I'm doing here. But see, as it's kind of like separating and then it gets chunky. And then as you add more liquid, it thins out again. I'm not sure exactly why it does that. But like I said, trust the process. Just keep slowly adding more water to your lemon and tahini mixture, and it'll slowly turn into a really delicious, creamy sauce-like texture. So just add as much as you want. I think I added about 5 tablespoons until it got to this texture. And now I'm just going to add my seasoning. I'm adding just a hint of roasted red pepper flakes, some garlic powder, some salt, and some pepper. I'm also going to add a heaping tablespoon of nutritional yeast. I think that makes a huge difference as far as flavor goes. It adds a bit of umami to it. But definitely taste test as you go and add as much or little as you like. The tahini, whoa, if I could spit it out here. The tahini itself has a really great flavor. This just kind of enhances everything, and it's going to go really well with that Parmesan squash flavor as well. So I'm just going to set this aside and we're going to check on our squash. It's been about a half an hour and we've got some beautiful browned up squash. It's nice and tender. We're looking good, folks. And I'm just going to use the largest spatula you will ever see in your entire life to take these little squashies off and put them in a bowl. And I'm going to serve it with our dipping sauce, and it is going to be amazing and totally guilt-free. I've been loving this hot, dipped in the tahini. I've also been really enjoying it cold on top of salads. I even used some of these leftovers to bake on a pizza, and it was pretty epic. So there's a lot of different ways you can use this. It may be a perfect light Thanksgiving side as well, just saying. So yeah, there's our super simple vegan Parmesan crusted squash recipe. I hope that you love it as much as I do. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys are all staying safe and healthy, and I can't wait to talk to you soon. Cheers.